Okay, it's been a while since I've been back out on the water chasing bass. Sorry that you've only really been seeing my saltwater adventures recently. Probably getting a bit sick of seeing me chase flatties, but I'm back into the sweet water today. It's the first time I've been to this particular stretch of one of my local creeks for quite a few months. In that time there's been some really heavy rain, some storms, some floods. So it'll be really interesting to see what the conditions are like, where the fish are sitting. If they've made it this far up, it's fairly far inland for a coastal creek, but I've done well here in the past, so fingers crossed. So far the water levels look pretty good. We've had some recent rain, and going to try my luck and see how we go. There goes an eel just under the kayak there. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but it's life. I've seen a few little fish flicking around as well. It's all a fairly promising start. It's fairly early in the afternoon. It's only just after 2 o'clock. So I've got a good 4 hours to explore, cast, relax, and hopefully catch some fish. See how we go. My preferred method of bass fishing is surface lures. I find it very hard to go away from that, just because it's such good fun, very productive in a lot of instances as well, and also very visual, which is very handy when you're trying to make a video. I'm going to start off today with the soft shell Cicada from TMCO. If you've seen any of my previous bass videos, you'll know that it's one of my favourites, and it really does produce the goods quite often. So it's made of a soft material, soft foam. It lands very nicely. Doesn't have any rattles, so it's fairly silent in itself, but it makes a lovely burbling sound as it works away across the surface. And it's obviously meant to imitate a fallen insect or cicada. So we're going to give that a try for a while and see how it goes. I expect more action as we get closer to dusk and the shadows start to come across, making the fish a little bit more susceptible to hunting out in the open. But we're going to tie it on and give it a go. Even though the sun's quite high at the moment, we're going to try and target little pockets of shade, and even throw it over the top of submerged snags that are in open water, because you just never know. When they're hungry, they don't care. It's a bit of scum on the water in places. Here's our friend the lizard. Hey mate, you leave my lure alone. Yeah, off you go. Tell your friends. Yeah, so there's a bit of scum on the water in some areas, which is going to make it a little bit difficult with a surface lure, because it tends to get a little bit tangled up and fouled on that material that's on the surface. But you try and cast in the pockets that are least affected, and hope that the fish are sitting under there, and attack before such times as it gets all tangled. What I'm really hanging out for is just that first hit. That bit of encouragement to say, yes, the fish are here, and that at least one of them is hungry. The longer you go without getting that encouragement, that reward for effort, the harder it is. One of the things to keep an eye out for when you're in an area where you're unfamiliar with, if you're looking to find out where a particularly deep spot is within the system, look up in the trees. And if you see a rope swing like that, unless you're in an area where the youth are particularly stupid, you'll normally find that the deepest sections have the rope swings over them. So yeah, use that as a bit of a guide that there's probably a bit of a hole in the area under that tree where you see the rope swing. One thing I've noticed this afternoon at this hour is that although I can hear the birds fairly active, I can't really hear a lot. Just a little bit I'm picking up now, but there's not a lot of insect noise like cicadas and that kind of thing. So I'm currently fishing a cicada imitation, and if there's not a lot of that activity around at the moment, the fish might not be keyed into looking at that. They might be looking for something more like a shrimp or a fish pattern. I have noticed quite a few mullet through the shallows as I've been paddling around, so it may pay for me to switch over soon and try a different type of lure, maybe a walk the dog that's meant to imitate maybe a fleeing bait fish or a prawn or something like that instead of a fallen insect. But I will persist with the Cicada for a little while longer and then maybe switch over. Now tell me, what sort of self-respecting bass would not live here? We've got overhanging trees, we've got submerged timber, we've got grassy edges, we've got deep water next to shallow. It's everything you could possibly want. Why aren't they here? So it's time for a change of lure. I'm going to go to my tackle box. Got this little box from my daughters for Father's Day. It's just the right size for a little bass expedition. You only need a handful of lures really. A mixture of top water, divers, a little bit of weedless, maybe something else, but yeah. What am I going to go with? Maybe throw a diver around for a little while. As much as I love the top water, it's just not happening for me. You catching any fish today? I'm not. What I wouldn't give to see him just get absolutely belted by a huge bass. How good would that be? Just go. Not sure if the camera will pick it up here, but there's a big circle of sand with like a indentation in the middle. Looks like somebody's buried a big tyre or something. I believe that's actually a catfish nest where they create that for their nest to lay their eggs, and you see them all through freshwater creeks in southeast Queensland, all over the other places as well I suppose, but yeah, that's a Tandanus or eeltail catfish nest, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. The switch to subsurface has paid off. Got myself a little bass that smashed my diver. Unfortunately I had the camera turned off, but yeah, he did well. He's hit my lure hard, fought well for a little fish, and he's in the net. So that's broken the duck. Not in the way that I thought I would, but it's a good sign. So I've been on the water now for just on an hour. Didn't get any hits on the surface, so I switched over to the diver. I've been casting that probably for about 20 minutes now, and I finally got a bass interested. So there you go. That's a little Pontoon 21. You can see it just fell out there. That's the Crackerjack 58 SP. So there you go. Pontoon 21, little diver, did the job for me. Okay, mate. So there we go. That's a beautiful example of a little wild creek bass. May have been stocked into the creek, or it may have been an escapee from an impoundment. Given the location of this particular creek, I think it's either a wild fish or a fish that's been stocked into the wild, but he's in very good condition. He's got a good tummy on him. No damage to his fins or his scales, and he was obviously hungry and feeding because he's attacked that little Pontoon 21 diver. So beautiful little fish. He's 33 centimetres to the tip, actually 32 centimetres to the fork. Oh. And he wants to get in my kayak with me. Sorry mate, it's a one-man kayak. So there he is, he's happy. He's got his fins swimming already in preparation for the release. There he is. So I'll just hold him still for a little while, let him get a bit of oxygen going back through his gills. and then we'll let him go. If I'm lucky, he'll give me a little bath on release. It's one of my favourite things about releasing bass, is sometimes they decide that they're going to give you a little bath. No, he was pretty sedate. See you, mate. So that little bass that I just caught on a little diver, all I've been doing is basically just casting parallel or slightly towards the bank, just bringing it back to me. Don't really know what sort of structure's under there. I'm using the lure as a bit of a prospecting tool. I can feel when it hits any structure or when it's bouncing on the bottom. And yeah, that's basically just the pattern I used. Give it a couple of short little rod movements to impart a bit of action at times, and other times just slow rolling the lure. Slow rolling is fishing terms for winding, just winding slowly and letting the lure just work its way back to you with its own natural action that's imparted by the bib on the front of the lure. So if you ever hear anybody talk about slow rolling, it just means casting it out, winding it back in, just nice and slow, letting the lure do its thing. So there is no doubt that as the afternoon progresses and the sun starts to get down, I will switch back to surface. But having changed to subsurface for the reason that I wasn't getting any hits on surface, and also from my own observations that the type of activity that I'd seen, the type of bait fish that I'd seen was small mullet and small bait fish, it sort of vindicated that decision to switch over. Who knows, I might have caught that fish on a surface lure anyway, but it's good to get results when you make a change and get rewarded. So when you come to the end of a pool, it's tempting to just go charging through the shallows and try and find your next stretch of fishable water. But with this moving water here, in this particular instance, what that's doing is it's going to be taking any of the food and bait fish, and it's going to present an opportunity to fish that are sitting at the base of this little shallow run or rapids. So I don't want to go in there like a bull in a china shop and just disturb everything. So what I might do is just hop out of the kayak and walk around the edge and see if there's a little deeper section at the base. I'll just have a flick around there and see if perhaps there's anything waiting for some an easy meal to come down with the current. So there's a number of things that I'm on the lookout for when I'm portaging, which is a fancy word for dragging my kayak and walking along. I'm looking for, one, snakes, because in Australia we've got so many of the poisonous, venomous, I should say, little bastards, that you really do not want to be messing with them. I'm looking for any sign of activity of fish or bait, for obvious reasons, and I'm also looking for any signs of drag marks that show that other kayaks have been through this area in recent times as well. So you'll often see, in areas that are heavily fished or quite popular, you'll see kayak drag marks, you'll see foot marks where land-based fishermen have been through. So yeah, keep your eyes open. It'll give you an idea as to the sort of area you're into and who's been through recently. So after a bit of dragging work to get the kayak through there, we're rewarded with a nice little pool, some deeper sections, some overhangs, some running water. It's got all of the things that would tend to suggest it's a likely spot to catch a bass. Spend a little bit of time here casting around just in the shallows where I'm going to launch the kayak, so that when I do launch the kayak I'm not disturbing any water that I haven't already covered. Well, as good as it looked, I gave that pool a thorough thrashing with both surface and subsurface and couldn't get even a swirl. So now I'm going to turn around and retrace my steps from earlier, heading back towards the launch site, throwing lures as I go. In theory, the most productive time of the day is still ahead of me, which is one of the things that's going to just keep me casting, is the hope that that is the case. So I was talking before about kayak drag marks. Now that one there, that's me on my way down. But if you were here on a Sunday morning and you saw that as you were on your way out, you'd go, okay, well, somebody's already been through here yesterday or today. Doesn't necessarily mean you won't catch fish, but it's not a good sign. Oh, that's a swirl. Come on, eat it. It's getting into that sort of late afternoon, the shadows are lengthening. The bass are going to start to come out as it cools down a little bit, and hopefully start hitting surface a bit. I've just had my first couple of little swipes on the return journey. Ooh, that was subtle. What was it? Are you a turtle? You're a turtle. Turtle! What are you doing, turtle? Turtle. Silly turtle. Silly turtle. Yeah, I know, I hear ya. I hear ya. I hear ya. There you go. Silly turtle. It has been a very slow afternoon. Just that one fish on the diver, a couple of little swipes on surface lures on the way back, and here I am almost back to the launch site, and apart from a turtle, I haven't seen any more action. Mind you, it was a good turtle, but not the target species. Oh, there we go. Geez, it's been a long, hard road, and literally road is the right idea, because that is the entry road that I've parked beside. And here it is. I finally, after almost 4 hours, got myself a bass on surface. As the butterflies dance around, that's pretty cool. It's not a big fish, but gee, I've worked hard for it. I only hope that there's enough battery left in the camera that you're actually seeing and hearing what's going on. Come here, mate. There we go. Whew. Jeez, mate, I worked hard for you. Come and let us have a look at you. It's the little soft shell cicada. That's a Frankenstein version that I've put together from a couple of damaged cicadas that I had. Now I just need to get it out of the fish. There we go. And here he is. The fruit of my labour. Very similar in size, I imagine, to the fish that I caught earlier on subsurface. Once again, in really top condition, you know, scale perfect for a beautiful little Aussie bass. Hey mate, yeah I know. Put you back in the water. Just as the light's starting to fade, he's ready to go. See you, mate. Whew, geez, that was hard work.